Community producers play a key role in local media, telling the stories of our area from the perspective of the people who live here. Sometimes those producers set out from here to tell the stories of the places they visit. Next up on Open Here, Tiff Phillips speaks with longtime PACTV community producer Beth Sobiloff about her life and her show, Two Grannies on the Road.
Hi, Beth. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for being on Open Here.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
So we're going to get to the crux of it. I really want to know what your background is. What's your story? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Ohio.
Oh, wow.
I was the fifth of 6 children. And my mother was a homemaker. She used to do sewing, bring in sewing for extra income. And my father was what do they call it? He was a blue-collar worker. Mm-hmm. And tool and die maker. And so I grew up in a very, kind of middle-class, small town outside of Toledo.
Wow, when did you get to Massachusetts?
Well, I had an older sister who was convinced that I needed to go to a Ivy League school. And so she and her husband, we're pretty spread out, the siblings. Some of us are 5 or 6 years apart. And so she was working in New York City, and she and her husband brought me out to Smith, Mount Holyoke, Wellesley, all these schools. And then my mother said, well, you can only apply to one because that's all we can afford for applications. And I said, wow, if I don't get in, I'm going to be really mad. But I did. I got into Smith College in Northampton. It's gorgeous out there. And so after Smith, I just decided to move to Boston, and I've been in the Boston area ever since then.
I love that area. I actually went to school out there, too. I went to Bay Path University in Longmeadow, which is next to Springfield, so I'm in Northampton all the time. It's a gorgeous area.
It is. It's changed a lot, but it is gorgeous out there.
Yeah. So I need to know, what brought you to Two Grannies? How did that concept come about?
Well, I had been in business for myself for about 8 years as a web designer. This is back in 2010. And I was actually kind of feeling sorry for myself that I had never gotten the opportunity to travel across the country in an RV with my kids. And yeah, I really wanted to travel. And then I just realized, hey, you have a job that you could do anywhere. So I started thinking about how I could think outside the box and combine work and play. And travel, and work at the same time, because I didn't have the time or the resources to not work for 3 months while I traveled the country or anything like that. So I started thinking about that, and at the time I was single, and I was also an empty nester, so I was on my own. And then I thought, well, I wouldn't want to do a trip like that on my own. That wouldn't be any fun. And then I thought of my friend who was a graphic designer. And she's a grandmother, and I said, she's adventurous. We'd have a lot of fun doing this. And then the name just came to me, Two Grannies on the Road. And we started scheming and thinking about how we could do this trip and, do seminars across the country, combining businesses, marketing to grow their businesses. And we just were having fun with it, and we were looking for sponsors to fund a trip like that. And we did some applications, but it never came about. And so over time, we just decided, well, let's do what we can do and travel locally. And for a while, actually, what we did was, I thought about doing a TV show because I knew with community television, you could do shows basically for free. And we had seen a lot of ageism happening right. in the workplace. And, we had friends who were laid off of their corporate jobs after 40 years and replaced by millennials, and they weren't ready to retire. They didn't want to. They couldn't afford to. But then there were others who were retiring and said, okay, now I want to live my dream. Well, maybe I always wanted to have a restaurant, but how do I do that? So we decided to interview baby boomers who had reinvented themselves and tell their stories to inspire other baby boomers and even anybody to live their dreams.
That's amazing. Have you always had an adventurous spirit? Is that something that you just it has been in your blood?
I think so. And maybe it was from growing up in a small town when we went some places, but not very far. But we used to go camping and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess I have.
And there's something to be said about like this generation of seniors. We were at the COA yesterday and we met a lot of people who are basically just living their best lives right now. Is there, can you say anything about that? Like, what do you think has changed? Because I think seniors, 20 years ago are completely different than the seniors that exist right now.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it has to do with more awareness of health and staying healthy. Maybe getting away from the standard American diet and exercising more. And there obviously is a much longer lifespan now than there was many years ago. It's actually declined in the last few years, but it's still a long way from what it used to be. So if you retire at 65, you're looking at least 20 more years. What are you going to do?
Right.
And people just don't want to sit and watch television or just go fishing. They want to do other things. They still want to be productive and contribute to the world. And I think people live longer when they do have a purpose.
Right.
And I think people are realizing that. So I think a lot of things have changed.
Well, I'm so glad you found your purpose. That's amazing.
I'm having a blast.
So what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, a typical travel day.
Yeah.
What we do is we plan ahead of time. We decide where we're going to go. Sometimes it's because people have said, please come to Hubbardston, or they've suggested it, or we just think, hey, we want to see the South Coast towns. And so ahead of time, we will go on social media and we'll look for a forum for that town, they're all on Facebook. They all have forums, almost every town. And we go on the forum and we tell them we have a show, and we're visiting every city and town in Massachusetts, and we're coming to your town, and we would really like help with what we should do. Where should we go? What should we see when we're there? What's the best place for breakfast, lunch, dinner? What are 3 things that we have to see? What is your town known for? And we get 100 responses. And when 8 people recommend one restaurant, we're like, okay, we have to go there. And so we schedule our day. We call the owners. We always make sure we talk to the town historian or someone from the Historical Society and get what the history of the town is. So we make the appointments so that we can interview people and not surprise them. And we schedule the whole day. So we'll try to get there at 8 or 8:30 in the morning, which is fun when the town is 2 hours away. And we'll, usually start with breakfast, and a lot of times we'll go from there to the Historical Society, and we'll just plan our day that way. We'll try to find some adventurous things to do. We'll try to find unusual businesses or businesses that have existed for, 50, 75, 100 years. And there's always a part of the day where we're just driving around looking at historic sites that maybe aren't open, or the landscape, or people say you have to go to Gooseberry Island, and that we'll do that as well. And then we end our day. Usually we don't stay for dinner because that's a really long day.
Right.
So we'll end 4 or 5 o'clock, come back home. And we've had a lot of fun. We've had great food. We've met really nice people. There's nothing like it.
Living your dream. Yeah. So what has the reception been of your show? Because you've had a lot of press and things like that. So what kind of platforms have promoted you?
Oh, gosh. We've been on Boston Channel 4 and Channel 7, Providence Channel 10, WBUR Radio, Boston Globe.
Wow.
Yeah, and also Worcester Telegram, a few other newspapers. The reception has been really great. People love what we're doing, and I think a lot of people want to travel. So they either live through us vicariously, or, I've been told people watch our show and they think it's fun and entertaining, inspirational, and they want to go to those places. So there's nothing better than that.
What are some of your favorite places that you've been to?
That's not a fair question.
How about like your top 3, maybe?
It is so hard. Usually the top 3 are the last 3 we visited. But, some stand out more than others. We haven't had a bad experience anywhere.
Right.
We've loved every town. They've all had these really interesting histories. But Hubbardston was fun because this little town where if you drove through, you'd think nothing was there. We found out there's a guy there who has the world's largest exhibit of Back to the Future memorabilia in the world. And it includes 3 DeLoreans.
What?
So, yeah. So that was actually a standout. I do have to say that. That was a standout. And by the way, they've invited us back because there's the church dedication. We interviewed the people in a church there that's being renovated, and when it opens on October 14th, they want us to premiere our Hubbardston show.
What?
Opening, so we're going up there.
That's crazy, Beth. That's amazing.
I know, that's fun. That's a first. But you know, some of the early ones that I went to, I really loved. Marion, they took us out on a sailboat. I think they call it the captain's boat or something for the races, and that was really fun. We've just met such fun people. We've been through, you know, we've done cranberry bogs, we've done maple sugar farms, we've done cheese factories. Just that kind of stuff is fun. I love learning new things, and I feel like I'll always be learning my entire life, and that's part of the thing that really attracts me to this, is that I'm always learning something new.
How do you think you've evolved over time with the show?
I think, well, a lot of our skills have gotten a lot better. Editing skills, camera skills have gotten a lot better. We've learned over time that people really like travel. They love food. And so that's why we moved more toward that, the travel and the food, because that's what people like to see. So that's evolved as well as our skills.
So what advice do you have for grannies out there who are looking to kind of start their next step, what they're going to do in their next chapter?
Just think outside the box and go for it.
I love that. That's perfectly simple. That's all you need to do.
That's it.
And what do you think the future holds for Two Grannies on the Road?
I think it's going to take a long time to get through 351 towns and cities. We've only done 43.
Wow.
So that's something to look forward to, right? But I still would like to go across the country. The Grand Canyon, definitely on my bucket list. We thought about doing, the whole idea at the beginning was get out of New England in the winter. So we'd go south and then straight west across the country. But I'd also like to do a summer trip up through Canada into Alaska. So if we were able to, especially to get sponsorships, because it's nice to have, you know, gas paid for.
Right.
Then I think we can do some of those longer trips. But we're happy right now traveling locally.
I need to model my life after yours. You are just living it up. And I respect that. You're an inspiration to not just people like baby boomers and seniors. You're an inspiration to all of us. And I really thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been fun.
All right. Take care.
You can watch Two Grannies on the Road right here on our community channel, or visit the website at twogranniesontheroad.com.
Hi friends. If you like this video by the local scene, share the love and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe.